Hi, it's Cayman with S&B, and today we're going to be doing an airflow test on the Z1 Motorsports Frontier intake versus the S&B Frontier intake. We're also going to be testing the efficiency of the filter, but first we're going to explain how the airflow test works. We're going to be setting our flow bench up to 428 CFM, and we're going to be measuring the pressure drop through the intake system. So at the inlet, all the way down to here where the throttle body would be. And so the intake hit with the least amount of a pressure drop is the intake hit that is the best for the vehicle, because when there's less of a pressure drop, there's more oxygen at the throttle body, denser air, and that means better performance. So you can see we got the S&B right here, Z1 Motorsports up there. A couple things about the S&B, they're a little bit different, is we have this new front intake scoop, so it brings in a whole bunch more air from the front, a huge side scoop that is bigger than the factory. Then S&B has a big old filter that goes straight to the throttle body through this massive tube. So we spent a bunch of time in engineering, and we just want to see how we stack up against the competition. We'll get started and get this cranked up to 428 CFM. So we'll open up this so you can have a better view. You can see 428 CFM. Then we're going to be looking at test filter restriction and measuring the pressure drop through the system. So we'll get it cranked on. Okay, now we have it cranked up to 428 CFM, so we'll come over here and check out their restriction number. So at 428 CFM, they are seeing 5.3 inches of water. So we'll take that number, right down, 5.3. Now we'll get the Z1 Motorsports intake kit swapped out for the S&B and see that restriction number for the S&B at 428 CFM. So now we got the S&B intake kit swapped over. Coupler's tight, everything's blocked off, same way how it was on the Z1 Motorsports. We got it all positioned, and we'll go over here and get it cranked up to 428 CFM and get a measurement for this as well. So again, blower turned on, 428 CFM set there, but watch it for down here. We're looking at test filter restriction. Got it up to 427 CFM. The test filter restriction is 4.8 inches of water. So we'll go over here. We got 4.8 inches of water, and we'll figure out the differences in restriction between the S&B and the Z1. So 4.8 divided by 5.3 minus 1. So there's a 9.4% improvement in airflow between the S&B and Z1. So the S&B, in other words, flows 9.4% better than the Z1 Motorsports. Now we're going to get into the efficiency numbers and get the ISO dust coming. Okay, so now we're doing our efficiency numbers on the S&B versus the Z1 Motorsports. And the way this test works, we have our ISO 5011 test bench, but we're getting a weight of the intake system before. And so we're going to write this down. So this is 5482.2. Then we're getting a weight of our absolute blanket. So this is the blanket that is in our test bench that's going to capture all the dust that gets through the filter. So we're going to be taking a weight of before and after of the blanket to figure out how much dust gets through. And then we're also going to take a weight of the intake system before and after so we can figure out how much dust is getting thrown at the system. Then we'll basically take the number that gets through and we'll divide that into the difference of the whole intake system, and that'll give us our efficiency number. So the blanket number is 595.71. Okay. Now we'll get this hooked up back to the test bench, get the blanket back into the test bench. We'll run our ISO tests, and we'll figure out the efficiency of the intake system. 2, 1. So just a little bit about how this test works. We have the flow bench set to 428 CFM. As soon as it hits 428 CFM, we're going to turn on the dust hopper. So it's going to be feeding in ISO coarse dust. You see the A4 coarse dust. And it's going to be shooting in dust until the system reaches 10 inches of water. And then at 10 inches of water, again, we take the system off, measure the blanket, measure the intake hit, and then we can come up with our efficiency number. Test ended. We got the intake system mounted back onto the scales. So you can see the after is 5806.7 of the intake hit. So there's that much dust thrown onto the intake system, and we'll find out how much dust got through the filter. So 598.66. 598.66. And you can see the blanket started at 595. So there's a little bit under 3 grams of dust that got through the filter. We'll get these punched into our Excel document as well and give you a calculation for the efficiency. But now we'll get the Z1 on the flow bench and see how they do. Okay, so now this test terminated. We're gonna get the intake system weighed and the blanket weighed. We'll get the numbers written down, we'll get them punched in the computer, and we'll give you guys the results. Okay, so now we got all the numbers in the computer, and I guess the first thing that we'll talk about is the airflow. As we talked about earlier, the S&B flows 9.4% better than Z1 Motorsports at the 428 CFM. And then now we're talking about how much dust the filter stops, S&B versus Z1. Then also how much dirt the filter can hold before it hits its 10 inches of water of restriction, which is the standard for measuring the capacity of the filter. So how much dust can the filter hold before it hits that restriction number. So we're gonna look here at S&B, 99.11% efficient. Again, that's with our ISO A4 coarse dust. Then our capacity, it took on 324.7 grams of dust before it hit 10 inches of water. So that's when the test terminated for both of them, when it hits 10 inches of water. We took on 324 grams of dust. That's a whole lot of dust. Now we'll go over to the Z1 Motorsports. The efficiency of the Z1 Motorsports filter was 93.44% efficient. So just to put that in perspective, again, S&B 99.11, they're at 93.44. The stock, we have the numbers on our website from when we tested the stock system, I believe it was 99.8. So if you're below 99, there's something wrong. It shouldn't be going on a truck and you shouldn't be going off-road. Then I guess one other thing that we'll talk about is the capacity of the filter. So it only took on 32 grams of dust before it hit 10 inches of water, so 10 inches of restriction. That is, we took on 10 more times of dust before it hit that restriction number. Meaning you can go off-road for a lot longer with an S&B intake and it won't hit the 10 inches of water. This loaded up really quickly. And I think that's just because of the size of the filter and how much bigger of a filter we're able to get on the system. But that's the test we're doing today. Let us know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching. Just to add to the video, when I showed these numbers to the engineers and said that Z1 only had 30 grams of dust that loaded onto the filter, they did not believe me. They've never seen a filter load up so quickly. And I ordered another filter just to prove it to them that we did the test right, and there was no issues. But you can see here both filters straight from Z1 with their logo on it. And this is the second test we did. So you can see the efficiency was actually even a little bit worse. It dropped down to 92 and still only 35 grams of dust before they hit that 10 inches of water.